Hey, should we, Diane, have they even noticed?
Well, it definitely requires future things.
Because we gotta, I think we should. I just saw it. Okay. This is just a warm up. Oh, we're on the air. You're on the air. All right, everybody, welcome to this edition of pre-excitement prior to our city council meeting. We have some folks here to talk about a little bit about our aging population. And Kent, I'm going to turn it over to you real quick, and then I've got a proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. About a year ago, Yogi Shah here and Joe Ola appeared before the City Council suggesting that the City of Des Moines might want to enter into a network of age-friendly communities from around the world through the World Health Organization. The wisdom of the City Council, Mayor, was that you did in fact apply and were admitted into this network of communities. We were approached at AARP to help be a sponsoring organization of this, and subsequently, to make a long story short, we've... The mic's not working?
That was just a warm-up.
I hope they'll edit this out. Sorry. No, we're on live. Phyllis will be so embarrassed.
Ken Sovereign is on.
Well, I won't bore you with the whole thing, but Dr. Yogi Shah and Dr. Joe Ola appeared before the City Council some year ago, asking the city to apply for age-friendly city status with the World Health Organization.
We got to tell our people from the media that we're on the air, so you got to keep it down a little bit.
Subsequent to that, Joel and Yogi approached AARP about being a sponsoring organization for this effort. In addition, we approached our national group, and now, as Des Moines was the third city in the United States, first Midwestern city, following Portland, Oregon, and New York City, to be admitted into the World Health Organization's age-friendly city status. Now there are 5 additional communities around the United States under AARP sponsorship that are also part of this group. With that, we approached Governing Magazine about having a series of roundtables across the country to ask, if you will, folks that represent government and private sector and not-for-profit sector, what are the challenges you are facing with the silver tsunami, with the ongoing aging of the population. And Wednesday of this week, we are hosting, along with Governing Magazine, an event here in Des Moines, and over 100 folks from the public sector, from the private sector, from Central Iowa's community and throughout the state are going to be there to begin these discussions about how the city of Des Moines, Central Iowa, the entire state of Iowa can better prepare for this increasingly aging population. We're very excited about this. We're going to focus on infrastructure, social capital, health services, and communications. And Mayor, I'm so happy that we've entered into this partnership with the City of Des Moines and all of the municipal governments here in Central Iowa to look forward to implementing the World Health Organization's criteria for age-friendly communities.
Great, thank you. Now, Yogi, do we have some special stuff you guys want to talk about here with the our little presentations in the WHO Global Network?
Sure. The WHO Age-Friendly City Group, the aging department, is very happy with so far our progress, and they have asked DMU, Des Moines University, and our students to be part of this on ongoing basis. So one of our students is going to WHO Geneva this weekend to work with Age-Friendly City Department.
And Mr. Mayor, some of the folks with us today are our volunteers, AARP volunteers who are leading up some of our work groups around infrastructure, capital improvements, health services, and so forth. We have the certificate of acceptance from the AARP for the city of Des Moines into its network of age-friendly cities. And of course, Councilman Mahaffey sits on the advisory council for this group as well, and where Suzette and Christine are co-chairs of a couple of our work groups along with that.
Well, with all that, congratulations to everybody for the hard work that got us this honor. In the meantime, we have a proclamation today, whereas a significant portion of Des Moines' population is aging, an aging population affects all as individuals and as a civil society. And whereas Des Moines residents stay healthier and active longer, Des Moines is committed to adapting to the needs of changing demographics to serve the interest of Iowans and sustain economic and social vitality. And whereas an age-friendly Des Moines commitment encourages active aging by optimizing opportunities for health and residents of all ages, and whereas we choose to live our physical, social, and cultural environment greatly impact how we live, and all Iowa's communities play a critical role in helping residents live longer and better. And whereas Des Moines is taking a lead on addressing the question for all Iowa communities on how businesses, governments, nonprofits, and individuals will respond to changing needs for health care, housing, transportation, food, and other essentials. And whereas on June 27, 2012, Governing Magazine and AARP are convening in Des Moines, one of the first of 4 communities in the nation to host statewide roundtable discussions on the kinds of policies and programs needed to foster innovation to create communities for all ages across our state. And now, therefore, I, the Mayor of Des Moines, on behalf of the Des Moines City Council and all of our citizens in the City of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim the City of Des Moines as a city committed to promoting, creating, and sustaining communities for all ages. Let's give all these folks a great big hand for all their work.
Thank you. See you Wednesday. See you Wednesday.
Thank you. See you. Great work. Yogi? Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob. Nobody got you.
See you Wednesday. Good to see you, Your Honor. I'd like to. Welcome to June 25th, 2012 Municipal Housing Agency Governing Board meeting. Agenda items are tonight 1 through 6. And our first item is to have our clerk take the roll, please.
County.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Reese. Here. Mahaffey.
Here.
Hensley.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Item 2 is to receive Public Housing Assessment System PHAS score report and approve the Des Moines Municipal Housing Agency recommendations. Board Communication number 12-352. For those of you so interested, we had a rather long meeting on this morning and went over in detail that report. And the council, I think, made some recommendations in regard to sort of a policy and strategy moving forward. And I'm going to quickly turn it over to our city manager, who is going to speak to that. We certainly want to and must address all of our short-term needs and agreements with HUD regarding public housing. And I think that we have some other interests moving forward in the long term to make sure that we maintain a satisfactory report. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The discussion this morning at the council workshop on this subject was very helpful and constructive. Just to sum up very briefly, the recommendation on the table is to address the shortfalls that were identified in the Public Housing Assessment System report from HUD with the allocation of, or actually not use the word allocation, the designation of $750,000 in our development fund as a self-insured retention fund for the workers' compensation program. That's not an allocation of dollars so much as it is a designation of those funds that could be used for that purpose if it's necessary. And the other component is the allocation from the development fund of $537,000 to pay for those unanticipated expenses that we identified and discussed this morning. Those actions would address the immediate issues that were identified in the HUD letter. But beyond that, it is my recommendation to you, based on your discussion this morning, that you ask me to identify a process going forward to evaluate short and long-term strategies to address financial challenges of the Housing Services Department, to include identifying actions that we believe HUD can take to help Des Moines and other cities deal effectively with further reductions of HUD dollars. As you know, that's a lot of the precipitating factors here have been the reduction of HUD funds to the city to support our housing services program. We need to find ways to address those issues. We need to work with HUD in that process, and that would be really the subject of this ongoing effort. But further, that process, as it goes forward, must include the active involvement of the council. So our intention would be to bring it back to you at appropriate junctures away and during the process to seek your guidance on it. And that further along those points, there is clearly interest in the general community on the topic. So we would want to have a process that would identify a way to seek that input as well. The recommendation specifically is to ask me to come back to you at the next meeting with a process that allows these steps to go forward, to seek your review of that process, and then, of course, to implement it as well. The last thing I would say about the recommendation is that on the specific response back to HUD, that needs to be a letter from the mayor. I would ask that you authorize me to work with the mayor in drafting such a letter, and that he be authorized to send it to convey our actions that we're taking here this evening. Mr. Mayor, that's my recommendation.
Okay. Any questions on the part of council? Yes, Ms. Hensley.
You know, I agree with the recommendation. I guess the one comment I would make, and Rick, you and I discussed it this morning, I just think it's important that we have more regular communication as to the status and what's going on, and would like to have some thought or suggestions as to how best that would happen, because I feel like we knew that there were some issues, but we really didn't spend as much time as we should have been, and we're the ones ultimately responsible. We're the ones that have to get back to HUD, and I just want to make sure that we're all up to date and well-informed and are part of that process.
Mrs. Hensley, council members, we will do that. In the process that I talked about us putting together, we will identify how that can happen. There'll be an opportunity at the next meeting for you to provide changes or modifications to that. But I understand that very clearly from the discussion this morning, and that is just no problem. We can build that into the process going forward.
Thank you.
Bob?
I think another reason we need to pursue this and get it moving is Joshua Academy, if they're going to take a legitimate run at the Logan's facility, we got to decide one way or the other what's going to happen for them also.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, could we have a motion? Somebody on item 2.
I'll move.
All right, it's been moved. Any discussion? Seeing none, if everyone would vote. Mr. Coleman?
7 yes.
Item 3 is approving the Greater Des Moines Habitat for Humanity's request to acquire 4 public housing units within the Martin Luther King Jr. neighborhood and authorizing the Housing Services Department to seek U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development approvals. Board Communication number 12-311. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on these items? All right. Anyone on the board? Any comment? Can we have a motion?
I would move item number 3.
All right. Item's been moved.
7 yes.
Item 4 is authorizing negotiations and approving conveyance by the Des Moines Municipal Housing Agency to Hawthorne Hill for the disposition sale of 1709 Gillette Street and 1427 8th Street. Board Communication number 12-309. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on this item? Seeing none, any discussion by the board? Hearing none, could we have a motion? It's been moved.
Seven yes.
Item 5, authorizing negotiations and approving the conveyance by the Des Moines Municipal Housing Agency to the Greater Des Moines Habitat for Humanity, Inc. for the disposition sale of 1809 22nd Street, 1513 and 1515 Dixon Street. Board Communication number 12-310. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on this item, the sale of these 2 properties? Seeing none, any board discussion? We have a motion.
7 yes.
Item 6, authorizing the city manager to release the mortgage and related security instruments for Armando Riviera, the third of 4205 Southeast 7th Street pursuant to the 5H Affordable Home Ownership Program. Board Communication number 12-312. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on this item? Seeing none, any discussion by the board? We have a motion? I think it was moved.
Yes.
7 yes.
All right, and could we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We said adjourned. All right, we'll move. Now, prior to the start of our city council meeting, before we call it to order, this evening we have a invocation, and it will be delivered tonight by our own council member, Bob Mahaffey, and those who would like to participate with us, we'd ask that you stand at this time.
I'd like to share with you a article that I read last week I thought has real meaning, and I thought I'd like to share it with you. It is the ambition of most people to leave some footprints on the sands of time. We can name many great ones whose fame shall endure as long as man remains on this planet, for their lives have contributed much to the benefit for their fellow men. There are others whose footprints are there but have left only a dark pattern on the memory of mankind, by an influence that was not a benefit but a flight. We can't all be great and famous, but all of us can use what time and talents we have in the best way we can to help others and to make them happy. This is to leave a shining footprint for someone to follow. The author was Esther York Burkhart. Thank you.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order for June 25th, 2012. I'll ask the clerk to take roll, please.
County,
Here.
Coleman,
Here.
Moore, Grease, Mahaffey.
Here.
Hensley,
Here.
Meyer. Here. We have a quorum.
Item 2 is approving the agenda as presented and/or as amended. There's been a request that we move item 63 up because there's a number of folks in the audience here this evening, and hopefully if we can get that item moved forward, we can then kind of make some more seats available for others for later on in the agenda. So item 63 will come right after the consent agenda. And if that's okay with everybody, and we could have a motion to approve the agenda with that amendment.
Seven yes.
Item 3 is approving the consent agenda. Tonight, those are the items 3 through number 40. These are routine items and generally enacted with one vote unless somebody in the audience pulls them off for further clarification or discussion, or one of our members of the council. This evening, just for your notes, item 5, Council Member Moore and I vote no. Item 37, Council Member Grease votes no. Are there any items that anyone in the audience would like under the consent to be pulled for any further discussion? Items again 3 through 40. Sir. Item 38. Okay. Any others? All right, could we have a motion to approve the consent?
Seven yes.
All right, the one item asked to be pulled off this evening is item number 38. Item 38 is a bid from Croto, Randy Crow, President, for the annual contract with 4 additional one-year renewal options to furnish junk vehicle towing services for the Neighborhood Inspection Division. The annual estimate is about $221,600. There were 10 bids mailed and 3 received. Council Communication number 12-331. Sir, if you'd like to come forward. To speak to item 38, and if you give us your name and address, please.
Name's Mike Swift. I live at 3830 92nd Drive, Urbandale. I'm here representing Swift Auto Salvage, Trails End. With Swift Auto Salvage, we do the towing contract right now as Dale's Towing. I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for listening to me today. I've sent all of you the letter that I came up with here, and just to give you a little part of it, Swift Auto Salvage, we are a family-owned business, been in the same locations for 75 years. Right now we have, during the time that we've had the towing, the junk towing contract with the city, we've had a very good relationship with the city of Des Moines. To assist you with your decision-making process as you determine who will be awarded the junk towing contract, the following is a review of our company and what we represent. We're members of the Iowa Auto Recyclers, and we're iCare certified, which means we're Iowa Certified Auto Recycler Environmental. I did bring a couple copies today, if the city council would like to look at them. How the junk contract was years ago, guys would just junk the cars and haul them and scrap them and get rid of them. Now it's become a whole complex environmental-wise. Also, not only with environmental stuff, there's another ruling called NVIDIS. It's the National Motor Vehicle Title Information System. And by federal law, we're required to turn in every VIN number into the federal government. We're also part of the ELVS Mercury Switch program. We're also required by federal law to turn in Mercury switches, and our family operations have been doing that for years. Also part of the National Association, Automotive Recycler Association. We maintain standard practices of doing auto recycling. Our R number's 47, our dealer number's 2326, and our Des Moines salvage dealer license is 207000273. Like I said, we do report VIN numbers. We do report, we do turn in the Mercury switches. We do all the environmental practices that our association that has this program, iCare, is developed for auto recyclers, by auto recyclers. I would like the city to take a look at it sometime. It might be the standard practice for owning or operating an auto recycling facility in the city of Des Moines. There's no new rules in there. It's all the standard practices that an auto recycler should be practicing as far as oils, antifreezes, all that kind of stuff. Freon, the batteries, the tires, what are we doing with that stuff? And that's all in our program.
Do you want to submit that and have us receive it for our review?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Coleman?
Thank you.
Move to receive and file.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
And like I said, part of the junk contract is just not like the old days when a guy just brought a junk car in. There are standard practices that we have practiced and we do practice. It's not just a towing company. We don't just, we do tow the vehicles in, but then we do process the vehicles after they arrive at our facility. We realize there's other companies that are the city's trying to reward with a contract. We're just asking that, at this time that you would take a look further into this to make sure that it is definitely an auto recycler that's bidding on it, not just a towing company. We feel that just a towing company needs to do more than just tow cars in. The person that the city wants to award the contract to, the way they practice selling the cars at auction. They haven't dismantled one car. Not turned in one Mercury switch, not done any of that kind of information. I can give you some facts. In 2009, when we started the contract, we got in 1,200 cars. In 2010, it was 980. 2011, 817. So far this year, it's only 257 cars. So the 800 car number is off quite a bit, estimated 500 cars this year. So we think that it's more important, we understand about the value that brings the money into the city, but we also want the city to take a look at the environmental practices that need to be taken care of when taking care of these salvage vehicles. I believe that's it. Any questions?
I do have some questions.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Ms. Hensley?
Are you the gentleman that I exchanged emails with today?
Yes.
Okay, let me, when I made reference to the blue letter,
Yep.
I think you were thinking of another blue letter, but our blue letter, if I could just read the comments in here, because the staff tried to go through and address these issues for us.
Okay.
Because they've been, we've been made aware of it. But the first one was the invitation to bid filled out and signed? Croto completed, GNS completed, Swift was not completed. And I can go through, there's about 8 different issues here. And I would say 5 out of the 8, Swift either did not complete it or did not attach the information. So, or it was not addressed. So it makes it very difficult when I understand you currently have the bid.
Right.
But yours was the most incomplete document submitted.
When I sent you the email today, if I could tell you what that information was, I would definitely. I know I went through the copy that I have here. The one page that I did notice was not filled in was the front page. I don't know if there was more to it than that, but I did look at the copy that we did send in, and that's what I did come up with, that the front page was not filled out with our current information. But I know the bid numbers were in there. I know that information was in there. I do not know what else was in there, though. I don't have the copy of what else might not have been in the bid.
Well, the years of experience, the others addressed it, you did not address it. The statement of agreement to meet city hours of operation, you left that blank, which is pretty critical to the operation.
Right. Other than, like I said, other than we must assume that we have the contract now, so maybe they already knew our hours. We work very well with Steve Bell, the Des Moines Police Department. I apologize for that.
Thank you.
Bob?
Christine covered what I was going to cover. I was concerned because they didn't complete the applications according to what our staff has reported to us, and there's a lot of unanswered questions that is listed on our blue letter. So.
All right, unless there's anything else, Mike, thank you very much.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Could we have a motion for item 38?
I've got some questions for staff if they're here to add. Answer.
Okay.
Mayor, Council, Sue Ann Donovan, Zoning Enforcement Officer.
Does the city of Des Moines, do we issue the salvage license within the city?
Yes.
What are they required to do with these cars after they tow them?
The salvage license or the tow contract, I don't understand, I guess.
The tow contract?
The tow contract,
Yes.
They tow them, they store them, and they wait to be released either to the owner or through a salvage license through us, and then they can dispose of the cars. They're not required to salvage them on site. They can pass them off and sell them to someone else.
Well, I noticed here one of the allegations was that Croto doesn't possess salvage license for the last 5 years. Staff response was they have to have a minimum of 5 years experience in vehicle salvage operations. I asked today that question again. It indicates that according to the city clerk's office, Croto has had their salvage license for 4.5 years.
Yes, and in their bid package, they attested to the fact they'd been in the business of towing for a number of years. We would look at the experience plus the current licenses held by the city.
Well, it says here minimum of 5 years experience in vehicle salvage operations. If they didn't hold a license, then you're just going to accept their word and they were operating illegally.
They could have done it in another jurisdiction. He's had licenses while he's been in the city of Des Moines.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody have anything else?
I'll move item 38.
Okay.
Six yes, one no.
All right, that completes the consent agenda and moves us forward. Quickly to item 63. Item 63 is the selection of the preferred redeveloper for the central fire station at 900 Mulberry Street, Council Communication number 12-356. Mr. Manager, I think I'll turn over to you for a comment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember. Staff is here and can answer detailed questions, but I'll do my best to kind of provide an overview of where we are in the action that's before you this evening. Just a little bit of history. Back in November of 2011, the city received a request or a letter from Des Moines Social Club indicating its interest in purchasing the old fire station, the main fire station downtown. Council directed me to work with Des Moines Social Club and other potential developers to see about their interest in buying the property. As you all know, a new fire station is under construction now, should be available for occupancy. I'm looking back at the chief, probably spring of next year, maybe late winter, something like that. So indeed, the property is going to be available. In January of this year, January of 2012, letters of interest in developing the property were posted on the city's website, so we did go through a solicitation process. We also were able to show the property to a number of local developers who had an interest in historic renovation projects, and so there was an opportunity beginning in January to solicit other interest, as is, I believe, our obligation in such endeavors. In late May, so not too long ago now, in late May, we notified Des Moines Social Club and West End Salvage, the two parties who have expressed an interest in the property, asking them to submit formal letters of interest. They both have done so. Both of those proposals are in your agenda tonight. The action tonight, more specifically, is to, if you choose one of these two proposals, is to authorize the staff to prepare a contract and to schedule a public hearing, actually come back to you to ask your permission to set a public hearing that would occur later this summer, early fall, at which time you could then consider the formal contract. So my point here is that you're not at the juncture right now to make a final decision, but you are at the position today, I believe, where you can indicate your preference and authorize us to start working on a contract. Our recommendation is to proceed with Des Moines Social Club over the two proposals that have come to us. And I want to outline for you just a few of the major provisions that we think are important to be included in this contract. The first thing to say is that this is a terrific building. The old fire station is part of the city's history. It's iconic by any measure. It is eligible for the National Register, so we believe that one of the conditions on the sale of the property should be that it is preserved. And we further suggested that there be a nomination to the Register of Historic Places or alternatively placed on the Des Moines local landmark listing, but some indication of its historic significance. In any event, the key point is, in any transfer of the property, it's our belief that any transfer should stipulate that the property be maintained essentially so that it's a place of our history and it's maintained, at least the exterior of the building, for the future. Several other conditions are important, though, because in any process like this, you think about the future and you want to make sure that the property is kept intact. So we have added a couple other provisions or suggested those to you. One is that any change in use or ownership of the property would be subject to the City Council's review for a period of 10 years. That's a way that you have to ensure that the uses of the property are ones that are consistent with our intentions and with the historic value of the property. Further along those lines, if the property is sold, that there should be a participation in the excess proceeds. So if the property is sold for more than the purchase price, which is $600,000 based on this recommendation, that the city would be able to participate 50-50 in the proceeds above that amount, and that would also adhere for a period of 10 years. Two other key points in this, in our view. One is that there be a viable business plan that's brought forward and provided to the city that shows the capacity of the entity that owns the property to operate it on a long-term basis. As you all know, it's always difficult to generate the funds necessary to not only purchase the property and go through the renovation, but also to operate it. As part of that particular point, it's also important to note that the council will want to know who the board of directors are. Who is the ownership entity for the property? We'd like to have the board of directors identified so that the council knows who those folks are, and to satisfy ourselves that there is a capacity within that board to adequately adhere to the requirements that the council puts in the requirements. And then, of course, part of that is evidence of financing. It's our understanding that there would be a thorough process to generate funds through a fundraising campaign. We would want to see some assurance that that campaign was successful before the transfer of the property occurs. And last but not least, a key condition for us, of course, is the sale price of $600,000. That's what's been submitted in the letter of interest by Des Moines Social Club. We believe that's a fair and reasonable price given the stipulations that we've placed on the property, and that we should go forward. So again, at the point in process tonight, this is a request to authorize or to identify Des Moines Social Club as the preferred developer. If the council so acts, then we would get busy. We'd work with them in negotiating a purchase agreement or a sale contract. That contract would then be the subject of a public hearing, which would come back before the council probably late summer, early fall, at which time you would then have a chance to review all those details and then take action at that time. Mayor and Council, that's my recommendation to you, and as I say, staff is here and can address more details if you have any.
Before we proceed, I personally think that I need to disclose a situation because I don't want there to be a perceived conflict. I contacted our city attorney today. My daughter serves as the vice president of the Des Moines Social Club, and I asked whether or not that was in fact a conflict. We went over the facts around this with the city attorney. And he gave me the following opinion. He said the transaction involved in this agenda is a sale of public property, and after notice and public solicitation and offers, there is no city acquisition of the property. Your daughter is the vice president of the Des Moines Social Club. She receives no financial benefit of any sort in exchange for her services. She does not live in my home, and I don't receive any favors, gratuities, or any other monetary value in this transaction whatsoever. So he has given me the opinion that he believes I am not in conflict to participate either in the discussion or in the vote on this item, but I did want to fully disclose that. So, Mrs. Hensley.
Can I follow up to make sure that everybody understands where I'm at on this, because I raised the same question with legal staff. I'm listed as a member of the advisory committee and asked our legal staff if that would be a potential conflict for us. I had to quickly ask for a job description because I wasn't sure what that meant, because we have not met, and referred all of that to our legal staff and was advised that no, it would not be a conflict, but I was asked to disclose it at this point, which I am doing. So I don't have near the detail you do, but I still got the same green light.
All right. So with that being said, does any of the council have any comments regarding this item?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to wait until we have, maybe, I'm sure there are probably people that want to speak on
right,
it. And then,
but I just thought if there was any preliminary comments anybody would like to make. We certainly have had this discussion over the future of this fire station. We realize it has historical value. I remember as a kid, as I related to one of the people that emailed me, walking by that station with my dad and him explaining some of his personal memories of it, including the bases of it, originally for the front doors being so wide that the engines couldn't fit out, and they had to do a remodel before they ever let the engines out the front door. But it is a really striking building that I think has a real significant place in the fabric of this city, not only from the past, but hopefully in the present. And with that said, I think that we would like to, and we've discussed at this council, the preservation of that asset and hopefully some great public use. I think with that, unless somebody has anything, Ms. Hensley, we would.
I'll go ahead and just make, and maybe they can be addressed then.
Yep.
Okay. As the mayor indicated, we've had a lot of discussion, so it's, you know, trying to figure out and make sure that we, as council and mayor, are good fiscal stewards in letting this building go, because there are a lot of very strong feelings, a lot of emotions tied with it. I know that the city manager went through and outlined a number of conditions that would go along with that. So I guess, Zach, if you're going to come up and speak, I'd like to just hear from you personally that you and your board have agreed to those conditions, or where you're at in the process, because I think it's real important for us to hear that. The other issue is fundraising. As you look at the blue letter, and I understand fully that fundraising is rather difficult when you don't have a structure that you're actually out asking for. We're asking that there be a lot done in order for this property to actually be conveyed over to the social club. So I'd really like to have some discussion from those of you coming up here as to how you see that proceeding here in the next few months, because you know that's going to have to happen and be in place before we actually let the building go over to you. And then the timeline, I talked with the city manager, you know, timeline-wise, getting some of the other conditions. I know that some of them will have to be in place before we turn it over, but I think it's really, really important, because this is, you're a young nonprofit. Let's face it, you're a young nonprofit, and we need to make sure that we have the house in order so that there's some long-term, you're going to be around, you know, 10, 15 years from now. And a lot of the requirements and the conditions that have been indicated in here have a 10-year clause in them, just because legally it would not be appropriate for us to ask for any longer. But again, just keep in mind that you are a very young nonprofit, and we need to be able to say to the citizens, this is a great addition to the city, but these are also some of the conditions and the safety valves that we put in place to ensure that this asset will be taken care of in the future.
Right, anyone else? Having said that, I don't know who is going to speak. If we could get some sort of an indication of all those folks that intend on speak, either pro or con, the recommendation that has been put forth on this item. We'd like to have you come over on this side of the room and identify yourselves so we get some sort of an idea what kind of timeline we're looking at to work through this item. All right. All right, Council, we'll give the first speaker 5 minutes. Should we go with 5 with all of them, or up to 5, or 3? How do you want to do it?
Probably 3.
3.
3? Okay. All right.
Great.
Zach, you're on.
Zachary Manheimer, 647 36th Street in Des Moines. 3 minutes should be fine. Thank you. Thank you all very much. First of all, we've been working with many of you for the last few months on this process. We and our supporters are extremely excited at this prospect to take over the firehouse and turn it into all the programming that we want to do. To speak a little bit about the history of the building, we share your sentiment completely. It's a big reason why we are attracted to the building in the first place. The history behind it, we believe, of course, being a cultural center, that history is an art form, and the architecture of that building is worth preserving. And we're prepared to raise the funds necessary to preserve the building properly, of course, following all the guidelines that are necessary to do so. We're very excited to begin the process. One thing of note, with the preservation of the building, of course, comes honoring the people that served or lived in that building since 1938. And we've been working with Local 4 Firemen's Union for a few weeks now, talking with them. And I'd like to submit a letter from Local 4 endorsing our project to council, if I'm allowed to.
Thank you. I'll move to receive and file.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
This is a very important step for us. We understand the challenges ahead with this process. We know they are great. We have an amazing team put together to help us. I've received their guidance and mentorship and support for many years now, and I think we're finally ready to make this thing real. I just want to say thank you once again, and I want to turn it over to Kara Hayden, who's one of our tri-chairs of our Capital Campaign Committee. Thank you.
Kara Hayden, 12911 Timberline Drive, Urbandale, Iowa. I am here to support the Des Moines Social Club and also as tri-chair for Capital Crossroads. I tri-chair that effort, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, Comprehensive Strategic Plan for our region for the next 5 years. I tri-chair with Barry Griswold, CEO of the foundation, and Angela Connolly, Polk County Supervisor. Within that strategic plan, there's a very significant element, and that element is that we develop an arts incubator, an arts hub, and that be located in downtown Des Moines. And obviously, the Des Moines Social Club, along with other cultural organizations in the firehouse, achieves that goal. So we're all really excited about that. The Des Moines Social Club, these other cultural organizations advancing the arts, dance, music, ideas, and information. And that being done in this jewel, this historical jewel of a building which will be preserved. So I want to thank you for your consideration of the proposal that Des Moines Social Club has put forward financially, but also for advancing culture in this city of ours and doing so in Firehouse, I believe, #1. And I also wanted to address, it was brought up as far as the fundraising effort. I wear many hats here. I'm also going to try chair the campaign with Fred Hubble and Connie Weimer. We have assembled a very prestigious group of fundraisers. The Des Moines Register today cited it as the who's who of Des Moines. I believe that to be true. And so what you can get confidence in is that the list of the campaign cabinet has a phenomenal network of relationships and people who we already know are willing to support the Des Moines Social Club. We know there are individuals, family foundations, and the corporations, all the corporations, that you know them, they are all interested in supporting Des Moines Social Club for the purpose of advancing culture, attracting and retaining our talent pools for business and the overall economy, and doing so in the firehouse is very exciting for all of them when we talk to them. We have raised, with letters, subject to having a building, a home, $635,000. The whole campaign will be $3 million. We plan to have $1 million total by October, the $2 million total by January of 2013, and $3 million by the end of March 2013. I thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, member of the council, Jake Christensen, Christensen Development, 506 3rd Street, Des Moines. As Kara mentioned, we do have an impressive fundraising committee, and the council raised the question about the ability to properly capitalize this effort. We took your advice seriously the last time we stood before you, and Zach had done an incredible job at that point of raising a very capable team, but we've been working steadily ever since to further that capability. Kara mentioned the fundraising committee. I would also like to submit the names of other supporters. I think it goes to the broad base of support that the Social Club has, both at an extremely high level corporately, all the way to the 1,153 signatures who submitted their name in support of this project. The other thing I would like to touch on is the responsibility that the Social Club deeply feels for the history that is involved in this building. We look forward to the process of following the state historic preservation guidelines and making a full renovation of the building to ensure the building has at least another 75 years and beyond to be an icon in Des Moines, which we agree it is. So thank you very much for your consideration and where we're at today.
Jake, while you're up, can you give us a clear definition of what your role is in it?
Sure. The Social Club doesn't develop real estate, nor do they do historic preservation, both things that I do. And so I have been hired by the Social Club, the executive committee, to orchestrate that. And so in our submittal, you see the team that I've worked with in the past on previous historic renovation projects. And so that team has come to bear in the event that we're awarded the opportunity to work on the firehouse.
You're a contractor or a vendor?
I'm a paid consultant to make sure this gets done by the guidelines.
But, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Deborah Salowitz, 708 36th Street, West Des Moines, and I'm here as a member, like all of you, of the Social Club, and also as an advocate for the Social Club, because the business that I own and have the privilege of working with, many of the companies that are dedicating their resources to this opportunity, to this project, as Kara mentioned, are my clients, and I work with them when they are recruiting key people to bring them to Des Moines. Part of my job is to tell the story of Des Moines in a way that will attract them and then engage them in the community once they're here, to retain them, whether they're young professionals, whether they're physicians or whatever. And one of the things that I constantly do whenever I have a candidate in town is make sure that they are aware of and have an opportunity to experience in some measure the programming that the Des Moines Social Club has to offer, among the other offerings that Des Moines already has. They are so compelled by the story and the narrative of the city and of the last 10 years, but also of the personal narrative of the people who've started the Des Moines Social Club. Christine, you mentioned how it's a young nonprofit. In the time that I have been here, 12 years since I moved here from Connecticut, there are several young nonprofits who have sustained themselves over that 12-year time period. The ballet company comes to mind. I see nothing but that opportunity and more for the Des Moines Social Club in terms of its longevity, in terms of its sustained contribution to the community, and certainly I see on a daily basis working with my clients the kind of outreach that it already successfully has, regardless of the age, regardless of the demographic. Everyone is a member for a reason, and it's a great way to attract new members from outside of the state. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Deborah.
Hello, my name is Brad Pingle, 31619 Silverado Lane, Waukee, Iowa. I work down at the Science Center of Iowa, and I'm one of those young professionals that the last speaker just mentioned. I come here just because Des Moines is changing. Everyone can feel it. The energy in the air, the excitement in the people. And it's been the work over the last many years, but not only the City Council, but of all of us, to revitalize a city that over its history, so much of the country is written off. And you know what? It's working. Between things like Bravo, the Farmers Market, and the Des Moines Social Club, Des Moines is maturing into a place that people like me want to stay at. We're excited to be here. Over the last 25 years I've been alive here in Iowa, I've never felt the excitement in my peers and my coworkers that I felt over the last 5 years about Des Moines. And the Des Moines Social Club has been at the forefront of this metamorphosis. The loss of the Des Moines Social Club building was a blow not only to the organization, but to all of Des Moines itself. And by allowing the Des Moines Social Club to purchase the firehouse, it will be able to continue this momentum that we've been building, as well as take this historical landmark and augment its cultural significance for the rest of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Brad, what's your address again?
31619 Silverado Lane, Waukee, Iowa.
Jake, when you finish a couple of those housing deals downtown, here's a guy that wants to move to Des Moines, right here.
Well, I'm trying to. I'm just...
We're looking forward to it, Brad. Thank you. I got his address, too. We're set. All right. Anybody else? All right, let's go ahead. Glenn? All right, is there anybody else besides Glenn? Glenn was stuck to his seat. He was riveted over there with all the stuff that's going on here. Go ahead.
I had a hard time getting into my chair, so it was a little bit hard getting out, too.
Okay, good.
Thank you. My name is Glenn Lyons. I'm the CEO of the Downtown Community Alliance, and I live at 3316 Southern Hills Drive in Des Moines. I proudly live in Des Moines for the last year, I might add. I've been working for the last 2 years, sort of casually, with members of the social club, trying to figure out what would be a good fit for them, a good location. I've had conversations with people at the city about this as well. And it seems to me that we're trying to marry two ideas here. The social club needs a good home, and the fire hall needs a good owner-occupant. And as long as the financial arrangements work, it's a reasonable purchase price, the investment in preserving and rehabilitating the fire hall is there, and the sustainability of the activities in it can continue over time. This is a very good deal. And I have a lot of confidence in the team that's been put together. It's night and day compared to when I arrived 2 years ago. There's been a great learning and working experience going on, and I would ask you to very seriously consider their proposal. I think it'll be a good fit for downtown and a good fit for Des Moines. Thank you.
Glenn, I might just add, you're selling yourself short. You've been really key to the whole process here. You said it yourself, it's quite a different team that's come together here to bring us to this point. And I'm not sure we would have gotten to this point had you not stepped in and been involved. No disrespect to the others, but we needed a common sense approach, and this is how you work with the system.
Well, thank you. I think we're there.
Yep,
Save a decision or two from members of council and the Des Moines Club, Social Club. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right, let's go ahead and close the discussion and open up for council members to make their comments. Want to start over here tonight, or?
I guess I don't have a lot to add. I'm sure there's going to be a number of things that are added. I think the Des Moines Social Club is a good fit. I talked with the city manager at length this afternoon discussing the lease versus sale option and the ability of the city to retain possession into the future. I think he quelled some of my concerns. And also I understand the implications of fundraising when you don't own a building. So I'm going to vote for this. I think you guys are a good fit there. I think you'll do well there, and you'll be a great asset to our downtown hub.
Well, I've been trying to keep an open mind on this. The Des Moines Social Club, your proposal was far and above what the West End was, but that's not to take away from them. I think that their heart's in the right place. I think they do a good job there. Really been lobbied a lot on this. It's all the comments, all the emails, phone calls, and everything were very positive for both parties. Asked a question this morning of staff to project out what the property taxes paid by each proposal would be over 20 years, and one's about $300,000. That's West End Architectural. With the fact that Des Moines Social Club is willing to pay the pilot also, it'd be somewhere around $600,000 to $800,000 over the next 20 years, and that's all at today's value. But I started thinking about it, and the intrinsic value that Des Moines Social Club could bring to that area and also to the entire metro area is extremely important. As we're hearing, Des Moines is very vibrant, and these are the things that are bringing the vibrancy to Des Moines. And then I think back to a few years ago when I met with Zach, and the majority of our conversation was about the fact that he wasn't receiving any help from anybody. Des Moines Social Club needs a permanent home. I started thinking about that today, and West End Salvage has got a home, fine place. Don't hear anything negative about it. People really like going down there and searching. But today, hopefully after the vote, we're going to welcome you into a new home, Des Moines Social Club.
Bob, any thoughts?
Well, I'm real pleased that the Des Moines Social Club has made such a great effort in coming forward for the firehouse. I like their idea of kind of proposed that they continue the thoughts and remember those who have lived there and worked there and how they're going to preserve that. And I think also that this, if we're looking for younger people and things for them to do in that, I think this really sets Des Moines apart from other cities that don't have this to offer. And so I'm all for this project. I'm certainly going to support it.
Right?
Thanks, Mayor. I think a lot that's been said is very accurate. I very rarely tip my hand on where I'm going to be on any particular vote, but this morning I posted on Facebook that I would be voting for the Des Moines Social Club, which I never ever do anything like that. So, and the response I got was pretty amazing too. So I think this is a great way to pay homage to the past and at the same time looking to the future. And I think it's going to be a great fit down there. And I look forward to seeing it done.
I just echo the comments that have been made and we made earlier, and congratulations to everybody that's gotten it to this point. But remember, this is the first step, and we've got several other important steps that we have to get done, and I'm confident that you can do it because of all the people that you've assembled to get you to this point, so congratulations.
I feel a little bit like that one Lending Tree commercial where they say, I'm rooting for you. I think all of us have kind of been rooting that the best proposal would come forward. You made it easy on us by meeting the anticipated or requested consideration, and I think that that's really important. As much as I think a lot of us were rooting for you, had the bids been reversed, we'd probably be having a much different conversation here. So I say all that in compliments to you all that are involved in it for putting a really strong foot forward. last week I wrote the council, the manager, and mentioned some of the things that I thought didn't make a difference as to how I was going to vote tonight, but that would make me feel really good about the future of the facility as we turn it over to the Des Moines Social Club. And I guess I can summarize it without any disrespect to Zach, who clearly has been the fuel behind this, and I think the person that we see as the face of the community and the group. But nonprofits have to live on, hopefully, for a long time, and it requires a very committed board. And my hope is that over the next couple of months, we really make sure that there are procedures and policies in place that make sure that long-term there is a really strong board of directors that will actually own. When you talk about a nonprofit, it's not Zach. No one person owns it. It is a board of directors of that nonprofit that become the stewards and the ownership group of that. And I think it's really important that we make sure that that's built to last and that it's as strong as it can be. I really appreciate, as I said, that you step forward with a really strong proposal. I don't have any doubts that good things will happen in the coming months as a result of your proposal and the endorsements that you've received to sell us the property. But I do want to say, like Christine did, this is the first step, and we need to now do the dirty work, the internal work, to make sure that the proposal can be executed just as you all dream it should be. So congratulations.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion.
He didn't say anything yet.
All right. We've got a motion on the table, and as we vote, I will say that just add my 2 bits, although everything's been said. I guess I haven't said it yet. But to add to everything that was said here, working with Matt and working with Zach has been a fun experience, but I look forward to you guys bringing this thing to fruition. I think it's an exciting opportunity. It speaks, as everybody has said up here, to the past, but more importantly, it's an opportunity for the future and for that creative class that we want to keep in Des Moines and give them opportunities to expand their ideas and their thoughts and their feelings, and you give them a venue and a place to make that happen. So keep it up, and we'll look forward to all your steps working through this process to bring this to fruition and completion. So with that,
my motion is to refer it to the city manager to negotiate the contract and incorporating all the conditions and recommendations in the blue letter.
With Des Moines Social Club.
With the Des Moines Social Club.
Just want to make sure.
7 yes.
right, thank you all.
There you go. A little woo. Hey, Rick. I had a letter that was about the class and liquor license. Did you get that electronically? You know, that's something that was like in our bonds. Was it the present? Maybe it was just the presentation. Maybe. I'll bet I can get to it.
All right, as everybody moves quietly out the door, we are going to open our hearings at 5:23. First item on hearings, number 50, on the issuance of the following general obligation bonds. Yes.
There's an informal hearing, number 49.
Yeah, but I thought we opened hearings on the time, not informal ones. What do you think?
The informal one is at 5 also.
Okay. All right, I'm standing corrected. We're going to go back to an informal hearing on the construction of the sidewalk on East Park Avenue from Southeast 14th Street to Southeast 18th Street Court.
Mayor, members of council, Jeb Brewer, city engineer. What council has before them tonight is informal hearing on the construction of sidewalk from East Park Avenue to Southeast 14th Street to Southeast 18th Court. Wasn't too long ago that council approved a new policy for sidewalks. Typically, sidewalks in the city of Des Moines are through an assessment process in which the adjoining property owners are assessed a portion of the construction. There was provisions made for some sidewalks to be designated as high priority sidewalks if they met certain criteria. Council has identified this piece of sidewalk as a high priority sidewalk, meaning that the proposal is that it would be constructed without assessment to the adjoining property owners. However, since the property owners will be maintaining, have the responsibility for maintenance and repair, they have been notified that council's intent is to construct that. They've been sent letters, and this is an opportunity for them to present their concerns to City Council if there are anybody here tonight that has comments. We have not received to date any written comments from any of the property owners either for or against it, so tonight's an opportunity if anyone has comments on the construction of East Park Avenue sidewalk from Southeast 14th Street to Southeast 18th Court.
All right, I guess we'll open our informal hearing and ask if there's anybody here that would like to speak on the construction of the sidewalk East Park Avenue from Southeast 14th Street to Southeast 18th Court. Is there anyone here to speak to that? Seeing none, let's close the informal hearing. And hopefully in the future we'll have hearings rather than informal hearings.
What's the legal difference between informal and formal?
The notice on this particular item was sent out as an information notice with an informal hearing, which has apparently been done before, but generally the code doesn't provide really for informal hearings as I understand it. So we'll be working with engineering to clarify this process going forward.
Mayor, essentially this is the way we've done it on previous sidewalk contracts. This is a new process for the non-assessed ones. Typically, an assessed one, there would be a formal hearing on a resolution necessity in which council essentially assigns the assessment. Since these have no assessments, there's no resolution necessity. However, there was still a need for the property owners to have an opportunity to address council since they will be having to take over maintenance and repair. So it's, the new process sort of creates a new procedure. The difference is this isn't published in the paper, but there are notices sent directly to those property owners which would have the sidewalk constructed in front of their property.
Okay, getting to the, if I could, Mayor, sorry.
Please.
Getting to the merits of the proposal. Been working on this for several years, and it was brought to our attention. It's a very dangerous stretch of road because we have a lot of wheelchairs that travel up and down that street. A lot of dangerous traffic that goes up and down as well, and a lot of people are trying to get to and from their homes to Hy-Vee and other places on 14th Street. It's very difficult. You'll see somebody in their wheelchair going actually on the street. There is no sidewalk on either side, and this I think remedies that in terms of getting a sidewalk, as we talked about on the north end, which I think gets us to where we need to be as far as a safety concern. It's a tremendous, tremendous problem, and hopefully nobody will be hurt. I don't think anybody's been hurt yet, but it's very dangerous. So if there's no other comments, I'll move 49.
All right, item 49 has been moved, and I concur, Brian. You've been working on this a long time. Good job. Mr. Coleman?
7 yes.
All right, now let's go to 50, the regular hearings. Item 50 is on the issuance of the following general obligation bonds. We're going to vote on these separately because I am advised by council that these should be taken in that manner. A is not to exceed $13,500,000 sanitary sewer bonds. These are essential corporate purposes. Council communication number 12-320. Number 1 is the authorization for additional action. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on item 50A and 50A1? Seeing none.
I'll move 50, 58, and 1.
Been moved. Any comments?
7 yes.
Item B is for general obligations not to exceed $11 million for stormwater bonds, essential corporate purposes. Council Communication number 12-321. One is the authorization for additional action. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on this item? Seeing none, could we have a motion?
7 yes.
Item C is the issuance of general obligation bonds not to exceed $13,500,000, parking taxable bonds, urban renewal purposes. Council Communication number 12-319. One is the authorization for additional action. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on this item?
I'll move C1.
Seven yes.
All right, takes us to item 51. On the proposed First Amendment to the Urban Renewal Plan for the South Side Economic Development District Urban Renewal Area, Council Communication number 12-335. A is the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and B is the amended resolution of necessity. Is there anyone to speak on 51A or B?
Maybe an A. I'll move 51 A and B, and if you have not been down to the Southbridge area, I encourage everybody to go look. It's coming along quite nicely. I should vote.
7 yes.
Item 52 on the 13th Amendment to the Central Place Industrial Park Redevelopment Program Urban Renewal Plan to extend the redevelopment controls and tax increment district until June 30 of 2020. Council Communication number 12-328A is the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is there anyone here to speak to this on the amendment to the Central Place Industrial Park Redevelopment Program Urban Renewal Plan?
I'll go ahead and move item 52 and 52A. And in the same vein, if you haven't been over here, you should come check it out.
7 yes.
Pretty soon, let's have some guided tours. I think we're going to show some folks what's
I
going on.
understand. I know Hallie's making fun of me.
Yeah.
Bill will take you out on the levee if you'd like.
It's just across the river from the good side of Berlin over there.
All right. Okay, we got it. So item 53, on a request to rezone 1540 Scott Avenue from M2 Heavy Industrial to PUD Planned Unit Development and approve the City of Des Moines Municipal Services Center PUD conceptual plan to allow the initial phase of development of a municipal services campus with approximately 85,000 square foot facility for offices, shops, and storage, and a 50,000 square foot outdoor storage yard for combined functions of Parks and Recreation, Public Works, and Engineering Department of the City. Council Communication number 12-326. And A is the first consideration of the ordinance above. And Mr. Manager, I'm also continue to urge that we keep that facility out of danger of flooding.
Mr. Mayor, Council, that is foremost in our mind as we go forward with the planning, as every single staff member will attest to.
Anybody to speak to this item? Seeing none. Brian?
Thanks, Mayor. I think it's important to also keep in mind that I think there's a significant portion of us that want to continue to move forward and move as quickly as possible. No offense to Public Works, but to move Public Works as fast as possible out of the East Village. I mean, but I'm very, very glad to see this moving quite quickly. So I will move 53 and 53A, and in addition, would like to add a waiver of the second and third readings. Is that right, Rick? Waiver of the second and third readings so we can move even faster. Right, Chris?
I agree on all that you said, especially the East Village stuff.
All right.
7 yes.
Item 54, a request from Alwi Habib to rezone 2410 Hickman Road from limited C2 general retail and highway-oriented commercial to C2 to allow for use of the property for a vehicle display lot. Plan and Zoning Commission recommends denial. Roll call contains the alternative motions. Anyone here to speak to this item? So, 2410 Hickman.
I would move to uphold the denial, and also, if staff could just monitor this, I've gotten a few complaints about trees that they cleared off before it had come to, which I think is within their prerogative, but just if staff could monitor that moving forward.
How large is the site?
Acre, maybe?
Yeah, good size.
They're
And I think it's actually two separate parcels, and one part's zoned correctly for what they want, and the other half isn't. It's kind of a complex issue.
What's the size of the lot that they have to mitigate the trees?
Michael Ludwig, Planning Administrator for the City of Des Moines. There is no limit on the size of the parcel as it relates to tree mitigation. It would just be as they come in for a permit, we would look at aerial photography, and if there was removal, then we would require mitigation.
Did they get a permit to remove trees?
You don't have to get a permit to remove trees, but if they came in for a permit for redevelopment or grading, other things like that, we would be able to require mitigation at that time. In our ordinance. The site's about 1.5 acres in size, and the existing limitation on vehicle sales applies, I believe, to the western 160 feet of the property.
Okay.
Mike, I noticed in here that there's not an applicable neighborhood. I was shocked when I looked at the map, saw there's a little area in there that's not organized, but we had discussed it several years ago that if a zoning issue is on a boundary, the neighborhood across the street should also be notified. And I think that in this case, we should have notified Martin Hickman.
I believe they did receive notice. We just identify in the staff report the actual district it's within.
Okay, thank you.
Seven yes.
55 on the request from Lazarus Investments LLC to rezone the property at 1100 Euclid Avenue from R2 two-family residential to limited C1 neighborhood retail commercial to allow a dental clinic on the property and to continue to July 23rd of 2012 at 5 p.m. at the request of the applicant. So actually, I guess what we're doing here is moving to defer and continue.
And I would move 55 to do that. It's tied in with some other projects that's planned over in Island Park.
7 yes.
Item 56 on the conveyance by installment contract of 1740 Garfield Avenue, Logan Community Center to Joshua Christian Academy for $100,000. Council Communication number 12-343. Mr. Manager, did you want to make comment on this one?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. During discussion with council members today on this project, one of the issues that came to our attention was the matter of the Joshua Christian Academy's ability to undertake this project. It's a large undertaking, a large building in a critical neighborhood, and the city's interest, I think, based on these conversations I've had, is to the effect to make sure that the property can indeed be properly maintained. That goes to the matter of the financial capability of the Joshua Christian Academy. My recommendation to you is to sell the property to the Joshua Christian Academy, but based on the discussions and input, and I think really good suggestions I've had from council members, I'm adding to that suggestion today that if you would so choose to authorize me to work with them, if you choose to sell it, to negotiate provisions into the sale contract that would address the whole issue of their financial capacity to undertake the project and to maintain the property. The city's interest here, I think, is to make sure that the property can be properly maintained, just as we would any other property. It's an important neighborhood, and we want to make sure that the property can be maintained over a long period of time. It's not a point dissimilar from the point we talked about with Des Moines Social Club earlier. So my recommendation is to proceed with the hearing, approve the sale of the property, close the hearing, but then ask us to negotiate those kind of provisions into the purchase agreement and bring those back to you for your review and approval prior to closing.
Question, City Manager, how can we do that when the city's looking at a possibility of utilizing that building?
Mr. Mahaffey, council members, if you recall the discussion this morning at the workshop, I indicated to you that I thought really two things. One, that we're not prepared right now, I think, to proceed with the building of the new building for housing services. And number two, if you recall the cost analysis we did of Logan Community Center and the building on 6th Avenue, those two properties, the cost is quite extraordinary. And the Logan Community Center, in our judgment as staff, it simply doesn't fit the bill. It doesn't have the right capacity or arrangement to meet the needs of housing services. So my recommendation is that you proceed with the sale, partly because it's, I think, very, very expensive to use it for housing services, as was the other building. But moreover, if you did it and you invested that money, you would still not have a property that was ideally situated for the housing services department. And it's a great question, Mr. Mahaffey. I mean, you could hang on to it and not sell it. That is not an unreasonable thing to do in this instance, but at the same time, you have somebody that's interested in buying it and making good use of it and relieving the city of an obligation to maintain a property which, frankly, today has no use for the city. So,
Mr. Manager, a year or two ago, we received a communication that indicated 3 or 4 people were interested in the Logan Community Center. What happened to those?
Mr. Moore, I'd really have to ask staff, but I think there were interested parties in it. I just don't believe they materialized into a bona fide offer to purchase property.
Well, I think that this makes me feel like it's a sale of convenience that locks us into another site for housing, and I think that's really inappropriate at this time.
Well, Mr. Moore, council members, I think there's a lot of different ways you can go with this. It ultimately boils down to a judgment about what's best for the neighbor and what's best for the city, and that's your domain. My recommendation to you is the best thing for the city is to relieve itself of the obligation to maintain this property. We don't have a use for it right now. There is a buyer. With the stipulation that I added, we would make sure that they had the capacity to undertake the project. But certainly, if Mr. Moore, if you and your colleagues on the council feel there's other uses, I think that's entirely appropriate if you feel that way.
Several comments that I'd like to make regarding this particular issue, and I don't know if there's going to be anybody that comes up and speaks on it tonight, but...
Do you want to speak before or after they...
No.
You want to?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think it's very important because we just did, and I don't know if you were in the audience or not, but when we had the discussion on the social club and you made reference to it, Mr. Manager, I think it's extremely important that the same criteria and the conditions that we attach to the social club are the same conditions and criteria that we would use here, because you are probably a newer nonprofit than the social club, I'm guessing. I think you're 3 or 4 years old. You're not very old. So I think it's even more important. And as a result of that discussion we had this morning analyzing the 2 properties, I know that we have a long-term issue that we need to deal with public housing, but I believe that we've got some short-term solutions that they need to address. They can stay at the Park Fair Mall. There are some other issues there, but I think there's also some other ways that they can look at reducing expenses. I had an opportunity to meet with several people involved in housing in the last week, and I just think that we need to make a decision on this and continue working on the public housing to try and look at what are options there. And really look at a long-term solution. I don't believe the Logan Community Center is a long-term solution. I believe that the building will be put to good use by the Joshua Christian Academy. And I believe the individuals that have expressed interest in the past, I would hope that Joshua Christian Community would figure out a way to work with them and incorporate them into this site. I don't know if it's possible, but I'd sure like to think that there would be some way you could. Their intentions are very good. It's just that they have not had the financial wherewithal to get that done. And so I know it's important to the neighborhood and them in still having that connection with that facility.
Any comment, Ms. Coleman?
I agree. I had a conversation with Rick today that is along the lines of what everybody's saying. I think it's important that we use similar criteria. I said before, this is about the board and about an organization being strong, like both these buildings. Usually if something bad happens or it's not well taken care of, whether it's 5 years from now or 20 years from now, the neighbors are going to count on the city to go in and solve it. And so we want to make sure we're dealing with really strong entities. With that said, putting on my professional hat, the Better Business Bureau is part of a group called the Wise Giving Alliance. And I did mention this last time, and I'd love it if you had an update, but our information shows that the IRS has you in, that your exempt status has been revoked. And if you had any information on that today, I would sure be appreciative of it. Sometimes those can happen because of a paperwork issue that can be resolved before we were to make a deal with you, but I probably would not support any action tonight or in the future until that was resolved.
All right. I guess what we ought to do now is open it up to the general public for any comments. Is there anybody in the audience? Reverend.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Keith A. Ratliff, Sr., pastor of the Maple Street Missionary Baptist Church, located at 1552 Maple Street here in Des Moines. I'm also the executive director of Joshua Christian Academy. To Mayor County and to the City Council members, Joshua Christian Academy has submitted to the city an offer to purchase the Logan Center, located at 1740 Garfield Avenue. For we would hope that the city would vote to grant us the opportunity to have the Logan Center as a location for continued growth and pride in the community. We have had discussions. We've had a discussion with certain community organizations such as Lifeline and also CHAMPS, which also are after-school programs for youth and for possible future collaboration, as you discussed. Those are things that we have had a discussion with. We would like to see some after-school programs and also possible Saturday or weekend type activities going on there at the Logan Center. We have a support letter also from Lifeline in that regard. We believe the Joshua Christian Academy is not an end-all to everything that is facing our communities. It is going to take positive-minded people working together, but we do believe that all children can fly. Some may need a longer runway, not because of race, not because of the color of their skin, but because of their social environment, their economic environment, or even their home environment. But we believe that all children can fly. We have at Joshua Christian Academy, we've been in existence 3 years. We're going into our 4th year this fall. We have A students, B students, C students. And yes, we have some students that would have fallen through the cracks or would fall through the cracks if it were left to themselves. All we ask of the City Council is to allow the positive-minded people of Joshua Christian Academy and our supporters the opportunity to physically grow with the purchase of the Logan Center. For Joshua Christian Academy, we believe that teamwork does make the dream work. We have a 3-year track record in regards to donors, in regards to our foundation, people from foundations. We are grateful for all the individuals who have given to us. We have had a budget in our first year of $100,000. budget in our second year of $150,000, budget of our third year, $200,000. We feel that if we are fortunate enough to receive the Logan Center, that by having a property, that we will have even more donors that will come alongside, and we feel confident that we can raise the money for Joshua Christian Academy at the Logan Center. Yes, we were 501c3. What we found out was that there was a paper that needed to be filled out that was not filled out by the treasurer, and so therefore it's in the process of being reworked in that regard. But that's the update that I have in regards to that, the information that was passed on to me.
I realize a bunch of nonprofits got caught in this bubble when the threshold changed. Right. Nonetheless, it's important that we get that rectified.
Paperwork.
Is that the 990 form?
No, it's 501c3.
501, but
it's
a form.
a determination.
990, you have to have 501c3 has to file 990.
That's right. And then there's a form for your determination letter. So it's he's probably right that it's something that can be fixed.
And I guess to that point, I mean, I would be comfortable including that as part of the city manager's recommendation, that's, you know, just, I mean, they have to have the financial capability to purchase the building, and I don't think they would have any problem meeting that. So I would be comfortable adding that just as a stipulation, as the city manager suggested.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak to this item? Again, number 56 on the installment contract. Again, I'd like to ask that everybody that wants to speak to this, we'd like to have you come over on this side so we have some idea about how long we're going to work on this particular piece. Is there anybody else can speak? This it? Okay. Thank you.
My name is Odell Jenkins. I live at 1340 East 15th Street, and I'm here to speak on the Logan Center. I am very, very disappointed with part of the City Council. There has been since last year, before the Boys and Girls Club closed, communication with city officials about that park, not the park, but about that building. I've worked in that building for 5 years. The Boys and Girls Club worked right across the hall from us. We've done all kind of programs in there to keep that open. When I got the news that the Boys and Girls Club was going to move out, I started talking to different city officials. Number one was the director of Park and Recreation. Number two was 2 council members. Number 3, when I got enough people to sponsor, when the conversation started with me, it was to rent, not to buy. It was to rent. I hosted a public meeting, and all the people that was going to sponsor me was there at that meeting. I had enough people there then. The next thing I heard from the city, that the thing was up for sale. You cannot start out playing football and then second half, you're going to turn it into baseball. I don't feel as though that they gave me a fair chance at that building. I don't, because I'm working with you to rent the building, which was told to me, if you rent the building, then certain things had to be fixed. I understood all that. The next time, when I found out that it was going to be sold, it was up for sale, it's been about 3 weeks ago when I actually found out the price of the building. That was after we had the meeting here at the City Council. I never knew what the price of the building was. I got a letter from, let's see his name, John Hagan. I went to him, I got the figures and stuff, and that's when I found out that Joshua School was able to buy, was wanting to buy. I want everybody to understand I have nothing against Joshua School. Nothing. But I don't think that Joshua School meets the need of the community in which we serve. When you guys tell me about there's going to be a private thing, what you're telling me, in that sense, all you're looking at is the almighty dollar. You don't care about those kids over there on the east side. I think the last time I was here, I told you it was 1,290 families that lived in that area. I also told you there was 1,290 kids in the Martin Luther King area. This is the second repeat that I am saying to you. If you didn't want to make it a community thing, should have told me when I first came, because that's what we're working for. The council also directed the city manager to meet with myself and the Reverend Ratliff. That meeting never took place. He delegated to Doug Roman in that meeting. I always get information that you guys need 5 days before the actual meeting. I don't know if this was on purpose or what. Everything that they've asked me for, I've only had 5 days to prepare for it. I don't think that's right either. If we were playing on the same playing field, I think things would be different. It's like you said, we could work it out. If you wanted to sell it in the beginning, it should have been said that it's going to be sold. Not telling me that if I can get somebody to take the place of DHS to pay that portion of the rent, then I could get the building. Every name on there, that them letters they sent out, you had all those names on there. When they contacted the city sent every one of those people to me. I asked them, what can I tell you? They didn't tell me that I had the building. So what can I tell you? There's about 10 of them. They sent a letter out and all the names on the letter. I was not treated fairly. And I want everybody to know that. I was not treated fairly in this whole process.
All right, could you summarize or conclude your comment?
The summarizing, Doug come out and he talked. I told him, no, I withdraw. There's two people, two entities was mentioned to me. Boys and Girls Club was one, and Lifeline was the other. Why would I want to get into something that two entities has already destroyed? Were they coming back for a second time? Not with me.
All right. Thank you, Odell. Any other speakers? Let's go ahead and close the hearing.
Before we do that, I'd like, Odell,
Yes.
have you approached them about leasing any space or anything to work with the Joshua Academy?
No, I have not. I don't, at this time, I'm just staying out of it because all the information, just like I said, was being held from me about the building 5 days ahead of time. You didn't even contact me. And I contacted you. You were one of the first.
But we didn't have it up
All
for
right,
sale.
Bob, we're going to, Odell, I'm going to have to come back up to the podium if you and Bob are going to have a conversation here.
Yes.
And you're right, I did attend a meeting with the Parks Board, or Parks representatives and you, and I think there's a child care organization that's looking at it, and another organization, and I don't know whatever happened to that because they were working with the city. I think also that if you would continue to pursue that, maybe you could have some space that you could work with them. And we didn't have the building up for sale. They found out it was empty, and they approached the city with an offer to buy it.
That's my point,
Yeah.
Mr. Councilman, that's my point. I didn't know it was up for sale either,
Yeah, well,
till 5 days before you had the city council meeting.
mhm.
And that's when I found out. I came to you in April. Might have been sooner than that. When they first made that last date there, I came to you. And I explained to you. By me getting with him, he has certain programs, I have certain programs that would conflict. They would bump heads during the day.
Okay.
Had I known all of this before, maybe we could have worked out something. But when I found out about it, was a letter written from you. May the 2nd.
I've never written a letter.
Well, come, I wish I'd have brought it. I wish I had brought it.
No.
Because you, according to that letter that I received from the city, you made contact with Josh Academy on April the 2nd.
They came over.
I received, no, they said you.
Okay, they came.
I received my letter May the 2nd.
They came over and visited with me about buying Wallace School. And I said, have you looked at the Logan facility? I think it's in much better condition than Wallace School is. And that's where it started.
Mm-hmm. But why couldn't I have had the information that I was seeking when I first came to you? That's what I'm talking about.
I thought all along you were working with the Parks Department. And they are the ones who handle the city.
And you.
Well,
Because you were my council member.
right, I am.
Mr.
But-
Jenkins, I understand your frustration. I do. And I don't know how to explain, but things, the circumstances just change. And I would really strongly encourage you to figure out a way to work with the Joshua Christian Academy, even if it's just a little bit, just give them a chance. I think that it's going to be for the betterment of what you're trying to do in the neighborhood, and I know you do a lot, but from the city's perspective, when we have an entity come forward, even though it wasn't listed, even though there may have been some lack of communication, I truly believe it was not intentional. It was just that we had somebody that came forward, they were familiar with the building, and they wanted to move forward. And when we're looking at it from a fiscal standpoint, I hope you understand that we've got to look at, this is something that's going to cost us in the long run, even if we have some of the space leased. So we're not trying to say that we don't want to work with you, but the circumstances changed. Maybe we could have done a better job getting in contact with you, but I was just looking at the history of dates and when we took action. Mm-hmm. And, the first action that the council took when it came back to us, we did approve a short-term lease back in September with Lifeline Youth Foundation. Mm-hmm. And then it came back in May, first council meeting in May, where Joshua Christian Academy had come forward and said they'd like to purchase it. But as we all know, I believe it was because they were familiar with the building from the Boys and Girls Club. So I understand what you're saying. I understand your frustration, but I just ask you to step back and figure out if there's a way that we can work with them, because I want to help you in your neighborhood as well, but we have to look at it from a fiscal perspective.
The only thing I'm saying, we were not playing on a level playing, because the way they got back to Joshua School, they could have got back to me too. If the game changes.
Oh, Dale, we appreciate that. And
I should have been notified.
I understand, and I agree with you.
I work for the rental, not the buying. If you'd have told me the buying, I could have went a different direction.
Okay.
But not on a short term,
all right,
like it been given me.
Thank you.
I hear you.
Well, we kind of closed the hearing, and we asked everybody that wanted to speak, but I'll ask the council, do we want to allow this individual?
I'll give him just a minute or so.
Okay.
My name is Kurt Wagner. I'm the Neighborhood Association President for Martin Luther King Park over at that area.
Okay.
And I really came here tonight to observe because that's what my board decided to do. But after hearing all this that's going on, I do have some concerns. The first concern I have is no one from the city got a hold of us and found out what the neighborhood needs. And that really bothers me, because we're supposed to be working hand in hand together. We are a designated neighborhood now. We have planners in there two times a month, and we don't hear nothing. Second thing that bothers me is that I don't feel that, and this is not against Joshua Academy or Mr. Jenkins or anything like that, that there's the whole story being told here, because I've had several associations and companies contact me to come and talk to our meetings and find out about the building, and I give them your information to contact. So I feel like the whole story's not being told. So I have some major concerns what's going on here, because I've had at least 6 or 7 meetings with people that was interested in the building after we went inside the paper, so if somebody would know about it. And I'm not agreeing with Mr. Jenkins or anything on that, but the communication in this process has been really messed up. And that's all I really have to say.
All right, nice point. Thank you. We have really learned a lot about what's going on in a lot of different areas of this city, starting with a study around the Logan Center and public housing. Reverend Ratliff, you didn't attend our meeting this morning, I don't recall. Well, you and I and Odell, actually, we all were out at Logan and listened to a presentation by the building people, the park people, even public housing was there. We listened to a presentation, and probably if you had your pen and pencil out as I did mine, they told us it was going to be $240,000 to fix up that building to meet ADA, redo the elevator, redo windows, redo HVAC, and everything was going to be pretty good. And then I think maybe you and I decided to be a little more than that, just in case. If you were at this morning's meeting, they revealed to us now, a couple weeks later, I mean, I don't quite remember, that the renovation of that existing office space was going to be $2,246,000, over $2 million, over 10 times what they told us at that meeting. Now, I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I think you should be aware of that, you know, as you are coming to the table to make an offer. I'm not trying to talk you out of the offer, but I agree with the gentleman that just spoke here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we've got to work through, and I think that you probably need to as well as we talk about it. And I agree with a couple of the comments up here that, you know, here we are in the middle of trying to figure out what to do with public housing, and thinking that we had some really reliable information that we were working with that got totally changed and blown out of the water in a 2-week study that apparently we've had that was hired by somebody to look at the Logan Center and also a place up on 6th Avenue. But in fairness to you, Reverend, I think that you ought to look at it just so that you can kind of put that into your hat, because I think we would be remiss to not make you aware that we now have a totally new set of numbers as to what it's going to take to fix that building. And I'm somewhat disappointed in the process myself, being we're in the middle of working through lots of things. So I'm not going to make a motion, but at this moment, I'm not going to move to convey this building until everybody gets a chance to look at what the situation is, including Reverend Ratliff and the Joshua Academy with this new enlightened information that we received this morning. So, at any rate, if somebody's got a motion, I'd be happy to listen to it.
I'd make a motion. I'd like to continue it to the next council meeting and get some of these questions answered and let the staff work with these group of people and satisfy what their claims are.
Bob, I would be okay supporting that motion. I would like to see city staff get together with the interested parties and have the dialogue so that everyone's on the same page. But I don't want continuing to mean that we're not planning. My plan would still be to move forward. The last time Joshua Christian Academy came forward was May 7th. That was over a month and a half ago for other interested parties to present what they would like to do. So to say that there wasn't notice, there was inadequate notice, they've had a month and a half, if nothing else, to prepare a proposal to suggest to us. And at least based on the conversation we've had here tonight, that hasn't been done. So I would be okay supporting a continuance, but I'm very supportive of Joshua Christian Academy, and barring something changing that significantly, if there's not another proposal in 2 weeks, I don't plan to continue this indefinitely with the potential that another proposal might happen someday in the future.
Right. Skip?
When we heard from the neighborhood chair, and so, you know, I used to live in that neighborhood, and I was the neighborhood chair for several years. It's near and dear to my heart, and I've been talking all along about the neighborhood having input into this. I don't know if 2 weeks is enough to get together with that neighborhood, but I think it's extremely important that we have a meeting with the neighborhood organization and ask them what do they want in that center. It may not be possible, but I think it's important that we listen to the people in that neighborhood. And I've got nothing against Joshua, but I just don't like this process we're going through on this.
Mr. Manager.
Just perhaps a question for Mr. Mahaffey in your motion. There was discussion earlier about asking us to work with Joshua Christian Academy about trying to identify provisions on the sale of the property that were similar to what we talked about with Des Moines Social Club. I'd appreciate it if there were just some clarification from the motion and from the council as to whether or not you want us to do that, or do you want some other intermediate step? I'm just not sure.
I think Mr. Halley is suggesting that they go ahead and continue to work with them, and I would include that in my motion and to work with them.
Could I just add, and I guess I know at one of the earlier discussions we talked about the timing issue, and that was a concern, and I think we need to be very open and realistic, because it's my understanding if they want to have schools open there in the fall, you know, realistically, if we wait 2 weeks, and I agree with continuing the hearing for 2 weeks because there clearly are some issues and questions that need to be addressed, but I think there just needs to be a very honest conversation about if you continue to have discussions and you're moving forward and you continue the hearing before you take final action, realistically, is it possible for them to even open the school in the fall, or do they have other options?
Well, I would guess they have a lot of work to do to get this lined up with the city, and I think they could go ahead in anticipation of that being accomplished. But
Mr. Mayor, may I? You know, one thing is, if you had approved it tonight at a hearing and closed the hearing, there would still be a period of time where legal, and I guess I have to look to Jeff, has to prepare the contract for sale. So there is a lag period in here. And part of my reason for asking the question of clarification to Mr. Mahaffey was, if you want us to go ahead and work on that, we can have that ready to go. Should you decide in 2 weeks that you want to proceed or not, that would mean there would be less lost time. So if you want, we can do that. We can address those issues about the conditions on the sale and their ability to perform, and we can also address the issues that Mr. Jenkins and the neighborhood president have brought to your attention today as well. So we can do all of that and come back in 2 weeks if that's your desire. I just want to make sure we're hitting the target with you if we do all that work.
But I think there's a lot of financial information that's going to have to be prepared before you can ever even consider going forward. And I think I don't know what they have to have done so far, but I think also, I feel a little bad that maybe our staff, we've dropped the ball and not had the neighborhood meeting and not had notified all the people who were interested in this property. So,
Mr. Mahaffey, and I don't want to get him up here at the podium, but I'm not so sure we haven't had neighborhood meetings. I think there was a neighborhood meeting, and I just, you know, I don't want to make assertions until I'm confident of the facts, and I'll collect all that information. But I do think there's been extensive conversation, and there have been meetings, and there has been discussions with Mr. Jenkins. But rather than throw stuff out that I'm not completely sure about, I'll take the opportunity for your referral back to collect all the information and get it to you.
Mr. Mahaffey?
Could I also just ask, Mr. Manager, before we move on and as you guys work on that, could you please share the information with Reverend Ratliff that was given to us this morning that totally changed that whole renovation number? He ought to at least be aware of it. We've spent taxpayer dollars on doing it. Let's share it with an interested party.
We would be happy to do that, Mr. Mayor.
Bob? Yeah. Just a thought, and based upon what the city manager is saying, it seems like you'd be able to go down parallel tracks, even if you, I mean, this is just the first step of a long series of actions that has to be taken. Would it not make more sense to continue to direct the city manager to have these negotiations with the understanding that the communication and what all these other issues that have developed, we can confirm or not confirm, you know, the comments that have been made, but with the clear understanding that we're taking very tiny steps, but it's going to have to come back. And I would ask that, you know, I would agree that it come back at that next council meeting in July so that we know definitively then which direction you're going.
Mr. Wagner, could you have a neighborhood meeting within before the next council meeting?
Our next neighborhood meeting is in the third Tuesday of July.
Third Tuesday of July.
And so that would be timely.
Yeah, that would be before, yeah.
Yeah, that would work.
Okay. And could we
The
have?
next meeting is the 23rd.
No, it's first meeting in July.
Well, it has to be. This is the 25th of June.
Well, direct it to, if it's okay with.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we were talking about
just bring it, specify that date then, and we'll bring it back then.
Would you want to have it come back on the 23rd?
Of July?
Is that too much time?
I think so. You say the 3rd of July, your meeting?
Third Tuesday.
Oh, the third Tuesday. Oh.
So if we need to go earlier, all you have to do is give me a date, and I have to get a hold of everybody to get them there.
Could you try to have it within the next 2 weeks so that in our next meeting in 2 weeks, so we wouldn't be holding up them any longer than we have to?
Yeah. If you give me a contact person, I'll get a hold of them tomorrow. I got to work until 3. I'll get a hold of them after 3 o'clock, and we can set up the time of the day.
Who in the city would he be working with, Rick?
Well, I'm going to say Larry Hulse right back here. If you two can talk and get that arranged, that'd be terrific. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Continue to next city council meeting.
Okay.
With Rick pursuing, or the staff pursuing it with Joshua Academy and with the others that are interested.
Seven yes.
All right, thank you all for coming down and working on this, and for everybody, I think it's really important that we all work together and try to make the best thing happen at that site. Including, let's keep up public housing thinking what they're going to do.
Yes, sir, we will do that.
Hate to get rid of yet another site that it's about the right size and
okay.
all of a sudden have it off the table. All right, item 57 is dismissing the public hearing on the conveyance of 1202, 1204, and 1300 Scott Avenue, the Lomar building, to Midwest Automatic Fire Sprinkler Company, $605,000, and Council Communication number 12-345. Mr. Manager, do you quickly want to tell us what we're dismissing here?
Actually, I think this is an offer to purchase property. It would be actually better if Jim Brewer could respond to it, Mr. Mayor. I think he's got more of the details than I do.
I think it's an offer that they made a while back. And then they found another piece of property in the Guthrie Business Center.
Right.
Yep.
And they've decided not to purchase this property, so the motion is to dismiss that offer.
Right.
Okay, so it's dismissing the offer. That's, I think, the clarification. If you agree with that, that's what we're doing.
Yep, we are
I
not.
just want to be very
gonna buy-
clear to the general public what's going on here, and I think, Mr. Meyer, you have exactly explained it.
See, I read my blue letters.
That's why you get paid the big bucks, right?
Six yes.
Okay, 58. On the vacation and conveyance of the north-south alley adjoining 815 High Street to the Cathedral Church of St. Paul for $1,000. The council communication number 12-341. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above. B is the final consideration of the ordinance above. And the waiver is requested by the applicant, requires 6 votes. C is approving and authorizing the execution of a letter in support of the application for the development of a north-south alley adjoining 815 High Street as a pedestrian plaza, green space, and pedestrian way.
I know we have representatives here, but I'd be happy to go ahead and move item 58A, B, and C. It's a great project. It makes all the sense in the world, especially when you look at the amount of street pedestrian traffic that you have walking from 801 Grand up to the principal buildings. I mean, it's just a constant flow. And I've always wondered in the wintertime when we have ice buildup and snow that we haven't had any injuries. So this is a great project. Thank you for pushing it forward.
Do you feel there's adequate access, and I not only ask you, but also our fire chief, for any public safety issues, especially from the east side of the church itself, to get access to that building in case of fire or whatever? Chief, if you just say yes, that'll be good. If
I'm not aware of any current access problems.
okay, thanks.
Just mean they'll be responsible for snow removal on that also?
It's their job.
Yes. Okay.
Goes with the property.
Mr. Moore, are you passing because you used to sing in the choir over there, or what?
You got it.
Yeah, all right.
6 yes, 1 pass.
59, on items regarding the vacation and conveyance of a portion of the north-south alley right-of-way north of Euclid Avenue between 2nd Avenue and 3rd Street to Iowa CVS Pharmacy LLC for $20,000. A is a recommendation from the Plan and Zoning Commission. B is a hearing on the vacation and conveyance of the property, the council communication number 12-342. C is the first consideration of the ordinance above, and D is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by Christopher R. Pose, attorney for CVS Pharmacy LLC, and it requires 6 votes. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on this item? Mr. Pose.
Mr. Lillis.
At any time. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, William Lillis and Mr. Pose, here on behalf of this item 59, A, B, C, and D. We'd welcome questions that you might have. This is a new project for the city of Des Moines, CVS Pharmacy, and the alley is necessary in order to build a brand new facility, we hope, at 2nd and Euclid in Mr. Mahaffey's ward. So we'd welcome questions that you might have. Mr. Lowe is also here from CVS Pharmacy, and hopefully you'll hear from him.
How large a facility is it?
Tom, about a 15,000 square foot. 13,000 square feet facility at 2nd and Euclid. Be on the north west corner of 2nd and Euclid, across from Park Fair.
Sell groceries and all that kind of stuff in there too?
And we hope some liquor once in a while. That's another issue. That's another issue.
Yeah.
We understand.
That's the question we wanted to get to here, sir.
Yes, it would be, we don't like to compare it to any other facility. CVS is actually a rival of, and I shouldn't say rival, same size,
Friendly
actually
competitor.
bigger competitor. There we go. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
They have
Competitor
synergies
of
between
Walgreens, and they're in eastern Iowa, the Quad Cities. They're in Cedar Rapids, and they're in Omaha, soon to be. And so it's a new facility and a new operation in the city of Des Moines and greater Des Moines. So they're looking to develop quite a few attractive stores. So Mr. Lowe, like I said, is here, and he's the person you'll see a lot of, hopefully, in the next few years as they develop other properties in the city.
And this alley is needed to tie between Second and Third so they can have the full. And they've worked out with some of the other existing businesses there to move elsewhere within Highland Park.
The Bach facility, if you know, the Bach property on the corner, it will be removed. Dr. Campbell, the dentist on the north side of Euclid, also will move to another facility in Highland Park. And I'm missing somebody. The
furniture store.
The furniture store, thank you, will be removed, and it'll go over to Park Fair across the street. Will become a tenant in Park Fair, the old Blockbuster space.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of moving parts, but hopefully it'll be a welcome addition to that area of town.
And we'll probably watch that as it's designed and moves forward, or?
Come back. The site plan will come back, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
To the council.
Is it going to be built to an NPC standard or something different?
Say again? No. NPC is not their preference. So that was an issue that they could not meet. But we think we'll have something that'll be very, very attractive in that part of town.
All right. Any other questions, anybody?
And they got great support from the neighborhood.
We did.
Met with the neighborhood.
Yeah, from both neighborhoods, from Oak Park, Highland Park, also the Business Foundation from the Highland Park area. So,
all right.
Thank you very much.
And this would be a great improvement. We got buildings that have been empty there on that street for a lot of years.
Yep.
Helen, Pat's, and a Bach, and those. Yeah.
I take it you're going to move it?
Great project, and I moved it. All A, B, C, and D. Yes.
Thank you very much.
59.
7 yes.
Item 60 on the 2012 citywide PCC pavement restoration program, the resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as TK Concrete, Inc., Tony J. Vermeer, President, $410,287.50. Council Communication number 12-347. A is the approval of the contract and the bond. Anybody in the audience to speak on this item? 60 and 60A. Could we have a motion?
Move.
Six yes, 1 no.
Item 61 on Glentel Cemetery, Clembaria Plaza and Niches. The resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as the Hanson Company, Inc., Craig Faber, President, $368,324.70. Council Communication number 12-344. A is approving the contract and the bond and permission to sublet. Is there anyone in the audience to speak to this Glendale Cemetery work?
I have one question on this item. The bid came in approximately 50,000 over what the engineer's estimate was.
Mm-hmm.
So does this mean that we are actually not doing another project within the cemetery infrastructure for Parks and Rec?
Mayor, County, members of the Des Moines City Council, Ben Page, Interim Director of Park and Recreation. No, we do have some funds available that were held over for a similar project that we were going to put with this project. There's great news with this investment. The return on investment here is substantial, about $500,000 that will net using our current pricing and our current trend of sales for niche spaces. We are out right now at Glendale, and part of the economy, people are choosing this over a typical burial right now, so we only see this to continue to rise for this type of need.
Okay, very good. I'll move item 61. Thank you.
Seven yes.
All right. Takes item 62 on the police station boiler replacement, the resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as the Waldinger Corporation. Guy M. Gast is president, $333,195. Council Communication number 12-338A is approving the contract and the bond and permission to sublet. Is there anybody in the audience to speak to this item? Seeing none, could we have a motion on the police station boiler replacement?
I move 62 and 62A.
Seven yes.
All right, takes us back to item 41. Item 41 is a ordinance final consideration and a request from Arnold DeWitt to rezone the property at 1241 East 38th Street from R160 one-family low-density residential to limited C2 general retail and highway-oriented commercial. And A is dismissing the proceedings on the proposed rezoning of 1241 East 38th Street, and it's requested by Arnold DeWitt. And again, the dismissing, I'm assuming that you're backing out of the project.
Yes, at this time, Mr. Mayor, City Council, my name is Arnie DeWitt. I live at 1642 Lakeview Drive. And it's been a long process for us, and we've decided right now it's just not a good decision, and so we are withdrawing our request to rezone.
Okay.
I think in my discussion with Arnie, he said he may come back later with a smaller proposal if it works out business-wise.
Kiddo.
Sorry to hear that.
I'll move 41 and 41A.
41A. Oh, speaker.
Okay.
Karen Schupman, 3804 Indianapolis Avenue, Des Moines, Iowa. I am chair of the Grays Woods Neighborhood Association, and I came here to support the project tonight only to find out that Arnie has withdrawn his project. You know, a year ago, the Neighborhood Association found out about this project, and as we dug into all the details, we found out that the project had been going on since 2004 approximately. I never found out the actual date. Our neighborhood action plan was approved by the Des Moines City Council and Plan and Zoning and Community Development in '99, and still the plan for DeWitt's property superseded the neighborhood plan. I guess Grace Woods has accepted the compromise plan that Councilman Moore came up with reservation, but you know, we were looking forward to moving ahead with this, and I was just really sort of, you know, thrown back by it that the Neighborhood Association has really wasted a whole year on this project, and it's not moving forward. Thank you.
Good evening. Marty Mock, 2701 Arthur. There are three issues that I'd like to ask where we go from here with this particular project. Number one, there was a long-standing mitigation issues with this particular property, and what will be the staff's, city's responsibility in making sure that those mitigation issues now continue on so that the property is brought back to its original condition. Number two, one of the concerns that was shared by not only this neighborhood but other neighborhoods is the adversarial situation we find ourselves in as neighborhood organizations with city staff when there is a action plan that has actually been passed by various entities, city council being one of them, and that staff will bring in recommendation that would be contrary to the city plans. One of the things that we'd like to recommend in the future that when a activity or a development comes in relationship to that's not in conformance with a neighborhood plan, that the neighborhood itself is one of the first people the city staff go to, instead of the neighborhood being in an adversarial relationship when the staff brings it to city council. And so I'd like to see some changes in procedure that would allow for neighborhoods to be in at the front end of it and to have that discussion than having to come to city council in that adversarial relationship. And then the last item which came up, and is one that I think is might be a legal issue, and that is the thing is, what is the role in a public hearing situation with citizens coming before city council members before the actual public hearing? We had, for example, when this was before you in the first public hearing, I found out that some of the city council members had been invited out to Mr. DeWitt's property to take a look at it, while others had not. We had Mr. Grease that made some disparaging comments about the neighborhood and their failure to be willing to compromise based upon the fact that he'd already seen the property. So I'd like to know from city legal, at what point do neighborhood activists, neighborhood people, is it appropriate for us in a public hearing to then be contacting city council people? Is it appropriate for us to be going beforehand to try to get them on our side? Is it more appropriate to come to the meeting to get them on our side? And so I'd like to know that for future reference when we have situations like this, do we start going after before, or do we wait? What is appropriate legally for that? And I thank you.
I can answer that, Marty, because I was one of the council members that actually responded to his call to go out and look at the property because I needed to understand what we were talking about. It is not unusual for me as a council member, I'm just going to speak for myself, for us to get calls to look at projects and to make sure we understand them. And I think for the most part that most people, when they have a project that they're bringing before the council that has some issues surrounding it, they're going to make calls to everybody at the council table. And there are some people that want to take advantage and there are others that don't. And so I think it's
I understand what you're saying. I'm just wanting to know that there is an agreement on the playing field as to what is appropriate to the process.
If you return your phone calls, there's an agreement. Let me leave it at that.
Say that? What?
If you return phone calls and get back to the citizens that are calling, you have everybody has the opportunity to go out there and see the project. And I bet this council agenda tonight,
I'm just asking, are you the legal?
Mark, I have a question. Can you rephrase your question? What's your question exactly?
The question is whether or not in a legal situation, in a public hearing situation, whether or not it's appropriate for people to contact city council members ahead of time on a public hearing, not on just a general agenda item, but an actual public hearing item.
As long as it's not Board of Adjustment.
I meet with everybody. I meet with anybody that calls.
I'm just asking if it's appropriate from the standpoint of city legal.
Absolutely, it's appropriate. Why wouldn't it be appropriate? I don't understand what the
I mean,
question
that's doing our job.
If somebody calls me, I'm gonna talk to them. If they have a project, I'll go meet with them. One's coming up.
And then the question was from the neighborhood was why didn't they also then visit the neighborhood in the same process? If you went out and looked at that particular project and talked to the person wanting it and knew that the neighborhood had vested interest, why wasn't there equal time spent going to the neighborhood to find out their opinion in the process? Should they also then be looking to appeal to city council members ahead of time as well? I'm just looking.
Absolutely, they can do whatever
Absolutely, all they have to do is call and tell us when they're going to have the neighborhood meeting, but we had no idea when they were having the neighborhood meeting.
I'd like the city attorney to respond to that question.
The question as to whether or not it's appropriate depends entirely upon what the nature and purpose of the hearing is. As Councilmember Hensley mentioned, Board of Adjustment, the particular body involved sits in the role of an adjudicatory body. As such, it would be entirely inappropriate for them to have contact with parties outside of the hearing process. With respect to a public hearing where the hearing is an open opportunity for people to come and talk, that's a little bit of a different story. Generally, rezoning in Iowa is considered to be legislative rather than adjudicative. That being said, different cities do things differently because of relatively recent case law in Iowa by the Iowa Supreme Court. Potentially the best practice and advice that I've given previously on this issue would be that if council members feel a need to speak or meet with anyone, that they do so with whomever and make sure that that's disclosed in the public hearing. It's also vitally important that any decision by the council not be made until the conclusion of the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Occasionally, we sit as the Des Moines debate team as well, so.
Well, I don't understand the question.
No, I understand. Anybody else? We have voting in process. One person hasn't voted.
Sorry.
You should just add Coleman to the end of every sentence.
7 yes.
All right.
It's after 6:30.
Yeah, it's a wild crowd. Okay, ordinances, first consideration, amending Chapter 114 of the Municipal Code regarding traffic regulation changes as follows. A is parking restriction south side of Des Moines Street, both sides of the driveway east of Robert D. Ray Drive. B is the installation of the loading zone on the west side of 5th Avenue, Locust Street to Grand Avenue. And C is the passenger loading and unloading zone east side of 5th Avenue and Senator Center to Crocker Street. Anyone here to speak on that consideration of the amendment of Chapter 114?
I'll move item 42A, B, C, and add that we waive the second and third readings based upon the non-pre-published.
And the fact that nobody was here to
Correct. It'll save
debate. Mr. Coleman.
Trying to make sure.
Keep us going.
Councilman
7 yes.
Brian is
all right.
on top of it.
43, amending Chapter 26 of the Municipal Code regarding the adoption and amendment of the 2011 edition of the National Electrical Code in recognition of licensed residential electrical contractors. Council Communication number 12-336. Anyone here to talk about that item? Do we have a motion?
I'll move it. I voted.
Good job.
I beat you all.
7 yes.
We're all
Item
proud of you,
44.
Chris. Great job.
Item 44, amending Chapter 118, has been withdrawn. So we'll move to item 45. Amending Chapter 74 of the Municipal Code regarding park facility hours, the definition of sunrise and sunset. Anyone here to speak about sunrises and sunsets?
Move.
It's been moved. Item 46, amending Chapter 102 of the Municipal Code regarding driveway approach and curb drop permit fees. Council Communication number 12-313. A is the final consideration of the ordinance above the waivers requested by the Community Development Director and requires 6 votes. And B is the amendment of the schedule of fees. Anyone here to talk about amending Chapter 102?
Move.
It's been moved.
7 yes.
47 from Councilmember Brian Meyer to speak regarding the proposed sale of excess city-owned property adjoining 400 Southeast 6th Street to Prospero Investments LLC, Brian and Tanya Tigner. Mr. Meyer.
Thanks, Mayor. This is the property that's just to the west of Capitol Pub and Hot Dog. I was down there the other day and Tanya was there. Do you want to come speak to it, Tanya, and tell everybody what you're doing? We own the property that's on directly to the west, and then they're going to open another restaurant that's even a little bit further to the west. So this would allow them to do a parking lot. Is that right?
That is correct. Good evening, Board, Mr. Mayor. This property we would like to obtain solely for parking. We have purchased the property next to it, which we would like to open as a barbecue restaurant. And we feel this property is not of much use to the city. We would like to obtain it and pave it for a parking lot, as we currently do not have what I would consider proper parking for our business.
And so where's your business from that parking lot?
400 Southeast 6th Street.
If you look on the diagram here on the picture, what they currently have, I believe, is boxed in as orange. Is that right, Tanya? And then to the left.
That's correct.
To the left is our property. And then they're opening the restaurant that's even further to the west.
Okay.
That's going to be the barbecue place. It's right off the MLK extension.
Okay.
So that's currently zoned PUD? Is that what the PUD zoning?
I'm not sure what it's currently zoned.
Does it have to be rezoned?
Aware of it.
Staff?
Michael Ludwig, Planning Administrator for the City of Des Moines. Mayor and Council, the property is currently zoned M1. It also has, which is a light industrial designation, but it also has the downtown overlay district on top of that. So there is a site plan review required, administrative site plan review required for development.
But there shouldn't be any rezoning problem as far as using it for parking then?
Rezoning is not required to develop.
Mike, let me ask you a question. Have you seen the proposal for this other restaurant?
There have been a couple of conversations. I know they've talked with the real estate division about acquiring the property.
Okay, do we have a site plan for the new restaurant?
There will have to be one before they can build. Yes.
But you haven't seen it?
I have not reviewed their site plan, no.
Okay, and does this fit in generally with what we see for the larger scale of development down here? I know that we worked with you very closely to get that house done. You lacked parking, you lacked all kinds of stuff there, but we're trying to work with it. And I guess one of my questions would be, is it appropriate to sell, or should we lease this alley, given all the other things that we've got going in the larger area to accommodate your use, but keep us remembering years gone by, some of the things that happened when we had 2 half blocks versus 1 whole block, and what that meant to the city when we had to reacquire a piece of property to do another project.
Sure.
It just seems that we ought to, not knowing exactly what's going to happen here, are we doing the right thing to sell it, or can we lease it so they can do what they want for whatever period, and then we don't have to come back and until we know what the larger plan is down there.
It's a great question, Mayor. Basically, the market district plan that was developed for the area showed higher intensity mixed-use commercial development on this block. Obviously, the city did not acquire the Capitol Pub and Hot Dog Grill when the Martin Luther King extension was done. It was a National Register eligible property at that time, and so it would have impeded use of federal funds for the highway extension. So it was available on the open market.
Does it meet historical standards at the moment?
I would say no, based on the amount of renovation that was done to the property. So long-term, there's a desire for mixed use, higher intensity commercial use on this block. They've actively pursued 2 of the properties on the block. They have talked with us on a couple of occasions about buying this property. At least the Community Development Department has commented and suggested that it should be leased. And we didn't specify the terms of the lease or anything like that. We left that up to the real estate division, but it was our opinion it should be leased for just the purposes that you stated, which is long-term. If there were a larger redevelopment project, we believe the property is worth more as a whole block than if it were done. And I know in the downtown area, at least the council has in the past been concerned about conveying, right-of-way that would allow an entire block to be assembled without an overall development plan for those areas. So we would not object to a parking lot. I don't know. I can't speak for the applicant as to whether or not a lease would meet their needs for the improvements that would be necessary to develop that parking lot. But it was at least the Community Development Department's recommendation that it be leased rather than sold.
I just look at the larger issue. We've got, what, a $160 million road sitting there, and, how do we best use it? And certainly, one, to work with you to meet your needs for parking and all that kind of stuff. But in the meantime, what is it 10, 20 years from now or 5 years from now, if we have to, assemble ground for the larger kind of use that you just spoke of, it puts us in a little different situation. I just bring that up.
I have a different opinion on that. I think this is basically, when they acquire this property, they will have acquired the entire block because they're purchasing the building to the west. And so I think this is exactly the kind of organic, bottom-up development that we need to see down there, that these guys took a chance to make that place work, and now they want to be entrepreneurs and open up another restaurant, and they will control that entire block, which I think is a good thing. And this gives them the opportunity. We are an impediment at this point of them really doing something nice down there. So the motion will be to move 47, unless there's other comments. The motion is to refer it back to the city manager's office to develop a plan to sell it to Prospectus. Prospero. Sorry.
With the understanding then that they would develop a plan?
Yeah, I've seen the diagrams and the blueprints, and I think it's fair that we not sell it until they've got the plans and approved from us and on the other parcel. Does
Okay.
that work, Tanya?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
All right. That's a different motion than I had. So you're saying that we're going to refer it to give us a recommendation back after we see the plans and all that kind of stuff, and then it would come back here for a vote to do that final approval of the sale?
Yes. Does that work?
Okay.
Is that fair, Frank?
Yeah, my concern is that, we've gotten ourselves in an interesting situation, a number of pieces of property when we've never seen a development plan that's finalized and approved, and we go ahead and convey alleys, then all of a sudden we come back and we're stuck with a...
Yeah, I don't have a problem with final approval, and then...
I'd be happy to provide that.
Okay.
Okay.
So we will...
7 yes.
Okay, a communication report, a petition in favor of proposed sanitary sewer on the Wakanda Parkway between Elder Lane and Southwest 16th Street.
I have a couple of questions and would just ask, that if we could get information back to us. There are currently 4 properties, residential properties on this street that are on septic systems. The reason this petition is coming forward is because one property that's up for sale, the owners are deceased and it's now in an estate. The septic system failed, and so the laws have changed, and it's nearly impossible to get a replacement septic system within the city, which I understand. The concern with surrounding property owners is the amount of disturbance and problems it's going to cause for other properties that are not necessarily having to have their septic, but to allow these properties to connect into it. Since we have only 2 of the 4 properties that are on the petition, to me it would make sense to go ahead and require all 4 properties to be connected to the sewer system at the same time, so you only have one mess as opposed to possibly a third and a second or a third mess down the road. But I am also sensitive to the cost. So I guess I would like to have us look at that and take that into account and work with the other property owners if possible.
Mrs. Hensley, council members, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we'll be happy to do that. This is, as you've already noted, would be an assessment, so we have to assess the property owners for the cost of the improvement. And you point out the difficult situation if 2 of the 4 have working septic tanks. They may be disinclined to be part of the assessment, but we understand that issue. We'll be happy to look at that and come back to you with some recommendations on how to go forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Seven yes.
All right, that takes us to item 64. That's extending the Class E liquor license moratorium until August 28th, 2012. Is there anyone in the audience to speak for or against this extension of this moratorium? Seeing none, could we have a motion?
I'll move.
Six yes.
If someone could adjourn the City Council and reconvene as Board of Health, I would. Been moved. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item passes. We now sit as the Board of Health. Item 1 is approving the legal document to proceed with court action seeking authority to abate the public nuisance at the following locations. A is 2703 Cottage Grove Avenue. It's a main structure. B is 1315 Park Avenue. It's a garage structure. C is 1143 14th Place. It's a fire damaged main structure. And D is 1924 35th Street. It's a garage structure. Is there anyone here to speak to the authority to abate the public nuisances at those addresses? Seeing none, could we have a motion?
I'll move 1A, B, C, and D.
It's been moved.
Seven yes.
All right, that completes the agenda. Could we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We sit adjourned. Thank you all.
Oh, you know what? What did we do Friday?